have you not heard? Creator of the ends of the earth. Even youths grow tired and weary, renew their strength, and wings like eagles.
We're gonna get you out of here!
The film opens with two spirited young brothers, Desmond and Hal, who find joy in their shared adventures among nature, climbing rocks and exploring the great outdoors. Their playful camaraderie occasionally leads to squabbles, which their father, Tom, encourages, as it allows him to only discipline the victor. Desmond, typically a gentle soul, faces a turning point when an attempt to defend himself with a brick nearly results in Hal's death. Thankfully, Hal survives, but the gravity of the incident weighs heavily on Desmond, a burden intensified by the fervent beliefs of their religious mother, Bertha. Fast forward 15 years, and we find Desmond working at his local church. In a moment that changes everything, he witnesses a man suffer an accident outside his window and rushes to provide assistance. Using his belt as a tourniquet, he manages to stabilize the man until medical help arrives. The doctor on the scene acknowledges Desmond's quick thinking and praises him for saving a life. This experience ignites a profound realization within Desmond as he observes the compassionate work of the nurses and doctors around him. He has always harbored dreams of saving lives, yet he lacks formal training. Amidst this newfound clarity, he encounters Nurse Dorothy, whose presence leaves him weak in the knees. In a moment of spontaneity, he even donates blood just to strike up a conversation with her, a gesture many would admire. The following day, Desmond returns to the hospital with the intention of asking Dorothy out. Their first date at the movies is a success, despite an awkward moment when he attempts an unexpected kiss. As time passes, their relationship flourishes in a healthy manner, with Desmond eagerly learning about medicine through the books Dorothy gifts him. However, during a family dinner, Hal drops a bombshell. He plans to enlist in the military, following in their father Tom's footsteps. Knowing their family would disapprove, he keeps this decision to himself until after it's made. Bertha reacts with anger, condemning Hal for choosing a path that could lead to taking lives, which contradicts her beliefs. Tom is visibly shaken and emotional, as seeing his son in uniform triggers painful memories from his own service. Inspired by Hal's decision, Desmond resolves to enlist as well and shares his intentions with Dorothy, asking her to marry him first so she won't be distressed by his choice. To his delight, she joyfully accepts. Desmond then seeks out Tom, who is visiting the gravestones of his fallen comrades. He expresses his desire not to bury his sons as well. The day arrives for Desmond's departure to Fort Jackson. Dorothy gifts him a Bible to keep close to his heart, containing a picture of her inside, a token of love and support. Upon arrival at the fort, he meets his fellow recruits, including Private Smitty, who unnerves him with his knife. Sergeant Howell makes an entrance that sends shivers down the spines of all the privates. He embodies every stereotype of a drill sergeant, loud, abrasive, and critical of their appearances, which Desmond finds amusing as he tests his own limits. Immediately thrust into rigorous training, Desmond excels at the obstacle course, a testament to his upbringing in the rugged mountains that has prepared him well for the challenges ahead. The next drill focuses on rifle training, which ignites a significant conflict for Desmond as he steadfastly refuses to pick up the weapon. Sergeant Howell, frustrated by Desmond's defiance, drags him to Captain Glover's office to account for his actions. There, Desmond passionately articulates that, as a conscientious objector, he should not have been assigned to a rifle company in the first place. He further explains that his faith prohibits him from working on Saturdays, which is his Sabbath. However, Glover dismisses Desmond's convictions with laughter, viewing the situation as a joke and questioning how he could trust someone in battle who cannot follow orders. Upon returning to training, Howell publicly humiliates Desmond in front of his fellow privates, declaring that no one can rely on him in combat. That night, as Desmond prepares for bed, Smitty sneaks up behind him and snatches his Bible, attempting to provoke a fight. Desmond, however, maintains his composure and simply asks for his Bible back with politeness. The following day, during his psychiatric evaluation, the doctors inquire if he hears voices. Desmond clarifies that he is fully aware of his surroundings. He is simply a devout believer, not insane. The doctor informs Captain Glover that Desmond is mentally stable and cannot be discharged, allowing him the opportunity to serve as a combat medic if he continues to perform well in other aspects of training. Glover, infuriated by this development, instructs Howell to confine Desmond to the barracks, where he is subjected to grueling tasks such as cleaning toilets. Howell further compounds Desmond's misery by trashing his bunk and announcing to the others that they will not enjoy a free weekend, insinuating that Desmond is to blame for their punishment. As a result, when night falls and Desmond tries to sleep, he is brutally attacked by the other privates. Smitty confronts him during the assault, questioning why he doesn't just leave. The next morning, Howell arrives for lineup and is taken aback by Desmond's battered face, urging him to quit for his own safety. Yet Desmond remains resolute. He refuses to abandon his principles and declines to name those who assaulted him. Once the unit's training concludes, everyone is permitted to go home, except Desmond, who is arrested for insubordination. This turn of events leaves Dorothy anxious as she waits at the altar, convinced that something must have gone awry since he would never abandon her. In his cell, overwhelmed by the weight of his circumstances, Desmond experiences a breakdown but quickly regains his composure when Glover visits. Glover tries to persuade him to plead guilty to avoid charges and secure his release, but Desmond once again stands firm in his convictions. Dorothy learns of Desmond's predicament and visits him, urging him to reconsider prioritizing his beliefs over his safety and suggesting he simply pass the rifle training without any intent to kill. Desmond remains unwavering in his stance, prompting Dorothy to reach out to Tom and Bertha to voice her concerns. The next day, Tom arrives at the fort in full uniform adorned with his medals, demanding an audience with his former commanding officer, now a general. Inside the courtroom, Desmond pleads not guilty. Just as he is about to receive his sentence, Tom bursts in with a letter from the general that could change everything. This note affirms that the right to serve as a conscientious objector is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, leading to the dismissal of the charges against Desmond and allowing him to begin his training as a combat medic. Overwhelmed with relief and joy, Desmond and Dorothy proceed with their wedding as planned. As time passes, the 77th Unit is deployed to Okinawa, Japan. Upon their arrival, the brutal reality of war confronts them as they witness soldiers carrying lifeless bodies as if they were mere burdens. The unit settles into the barracks, soon joined by the remaining soldiers from the 96th Unit, where Desmond meets the only two other medics in the area. The soldiers from the 96th share harrowing tales about the Meta Escarpment, more commonly known as Hacksaw Ridge. They recount how American forces have attempted to ascend the ridge over 6 times, each time repelled by fierce Japanese resistance. With the Japanese army specifically targeting wounded soldiers, Desmond is advised to remove the Red Cross insignia from his sleeve to reduce his visibility as a target. A few days later, the reinforced unit arrives at Hacksaw Ridge. Reclaiming this strategic position is vital. It represents a key step toward retaking Okinawa and ultimately advancing toward Japan. The battle commences with U.S. Navy missiles raining down on Japanese positions, creating chaos amid explosions and smoke that allow Desmond's unit to ascend the ridge and engage in combat. The fighting erupts violently, resulting in significant casualties on both sides. Yet, Desmond remains steadfast in his resolve, diligently carrying his wounded comrades down the ridge. Several times, he narrowly escapes death at the hands of Japanese soldiers, but Smitty vigilantly watches his back. As night falls after a grueling day of battle, Desmond's unit decides to dig in and camp at their newly claimed position, planning to continue their efforts at dawn. Desmond expresses his desire to search for any remaining survivors, but Howell deems it too perilous to venture out. In a show of solidarity, Smitty volunteers to accompany him, and Howell reluctantly agrees. Together, they manage to rescue a few soldiers before taking shelter in a hole. For the first time, Smitty acknowledges Desmond's bravery and compassion in battle, and they share light-hearted banter as if they've been friends for years. Desmond drifts off to sleep but is soon jolted awake by a vivid nightmare of enemy soldiers ambushing them. In a panic, he shares his dream with Smitty, who humorously quips about a man who doesn't even use a gun in his dreams. Desmond reflects on his deep-seated opposition to firearms, tracing it back to a traumatic childhood experience of abandonment. Morning breaks, bringing renewed chaos as the Japanese army launches a counterattack, ambushing the American forces. The situation quickly deteriorates. Howell orders a retreat to regroup with naval support. Tragically, Smitty is mortally wounded before Desmond can move him to safety.
Hey! Help me get him down! He's gone. No.
As the remaining American soldiers scramble down the ridge, Desmond pauses, listening to the desperate cries of his comrades left behind. In that moment of clarity and conviction, he realizes that it is God's will for him to stay and offer aid to those still suffering on the battlefield. Desmond springs into action, urgently dragging injured soldiers to the edge of the ridge and using rope to lower them to safety. Meanwhile, Glover, having returned to camp, makes the difficult decision to call off the artillery strikes in a desperate attempt to save more lives. However, this choice leaves Desmond, Howell, and the remaining soldiers exposed to the advancing Japanese forces. Despite the looming danger, Desmond remains undeterred, even as enemy soldiers draw closer. When he spots an injured comrade, he instinctively buries him beneath the dirt and covers himself with a fallen body to evade detection. This clever tactic succeeds, allowing a Japanese soldier to pass by without noticing him, and Desmond seizes the opportunity to rescue his fellow soldier. After sending him down the ridge, Desmond returns to the chaos of battle but is quickly spotted by the enemy. In a frantic bid for survival, he discovers a tunnel and enters it, only to encounter the tragic sight of a soldier who has taken his own life. It dawns on him that this is a Japanese tunnel, granting their forces swift movement through the area, which heightens his anxiety. As enemy soldiers traverse the tunnel, he skillfully avoids detection but inadvertently stumbles upon a wounded Japanese soldier. Adhering to his medical ethics, Desmond administers morphine and bandages to the enemy combatant, despite their differences. When it is finally safe for him to exit the tunnel, night has fallen once again. Undeterred by the darkness, Desmond continues his relentless search for injured soldiers.
Okay, we got you.
Even as his hands bleed and become raw from the grueling effort. The next morning, Glover notices that all the medic bays are filled with wounded soldiers and wonders how they arrived there. One of the rescued men reveals that the very medic nobody believed in has been tirelessly working alone to save them. Meanwhile, Desmond encounters an injured Howell alongside another soldier. After successfully carrying one comrade to safety, Desmond rushes back for Howell but is spotted by an enemy sniper. In a calculated move, Desmond runs deliberately to draw the sniper's fire, exposing the enemy's position. Seizing the opportunity, Howell retaliates and takes down the sniper, creating a moment of cover for Desmond. With determination, Desmond begins dragging Howell to safety while Howell provides cover fire against the enemy. Once Howell is safely sent down the ridge, Desmond leaps after him, having saved as many soldiers as he could. As Japanese soldiers peer over the ridge, they are swiftly neutralized by Glover and the rest of the unit below. Desmond is then lifted by his comrades, who shower him with praise and respect for his bravery. He makes his way to the medic tents, where he learns that one of his fellow medics did not survive. Later, Glover approaches Desmond to express his heartfelt apologies for everything that has transpired, acknowledging that Desmond has done more for his country than anyone could have imagined. Glover informs Desmond that the unit will return to the ridge the next day, Saturday. He expresses a desire for Desmond to join them but acknowledges that he is not obligated to do so, as it is his Sabbath. Desmond, however, feels compelled to participate, and we witness the rest of the unit patiently awaiting the conclusion of his prayer before they ascend to confront the remaining Japanese forces. Armed with the vital intelligence Desmond has provided about the enemy tunnels, the Americans launch a surprise attack, gaining a significant advantage. In a tense moment, a group of enemy soldiers emerges from the tunnel, feigning surrender by waving a white flag. However, their intentions are deceitful. As they draw closer, they hurl grenades at the American soldiers. The ensuing chaos results in a swift and lethal response, but amidst the turmoil, Desmond bravely deflects a grenade, sustaining injuries in the process. His fellow privates quickly place him on a stretcher and begin transporting him to safety along the ridge, pausing only briefly to retrieve his Bible, which had fallen during the fierce combat. Ultimately, despite the harrowing events, the Americans prevail in retaking Hacksaw Ridge. The story concludes with a powerful reflection on the real Desmond Doss, who heroically carried 75 wounded men to safety during the battle. As the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor, America's highest accolade for valor under fire, Desmond and his beloved wife Dorothy remained married until her passing in 1991. Throughout his life, Desmond steadfastly adhered to his principles, attributing all his achievements to his faith in God. He passed away at the age of 87 in March 2006, leaving behind a legacy of bravery and devotion. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.